2011 was a pretty great year for video games. We got Skyward Sword, Saints Row the Third, Infamous 2, the reboot of Mortal Kombat, Skylanders, LEGO Star Wars 3, and we also got one of the best games ever made, Batman Arkham City. Oh yeah, and the 3DS came out that year also. But one game that definitely stood out to me and many other Sonic fans from that year is Sonic Generations. I remember back then when you could play demos for PS3 games at Target, which you can't do for most consoles nowadays, at least as far as I'm aware. Damn, I'm getting old. Anyway, when I got the chance to get my hands on that controller, I would always play the demo for Sonic Generations. It only had Act 1 for Green Hill Zone, so I still couldn't play the modern Sonic stages yet, but I couldn't get enough of it anyway. It was just amazing to see the Genesis style of Sonic with those kind of graphics at the time. I was eventually gifted Sonic Generations for my Xbox 360, and I absolutely loved it. It still remains one of mine and many other Sonic fans' favorite Sonic games. And it seems Sega knew this well enough, as at the end of January, Sonic X Shadow Generations was revealed, and dude, I don't think I've seen people get more hyped for a Sonic game. Oh, and it's also coming out the same month as Metaphor ReFantazio. Great. But these are my thoughts on the game and not other people's thoughts, especially with the recent gameplay footage. So let's talk about it. Now, I'm mostly going to be talking about the Shadow portion, but I'll just get the modern Sonic and classic Sonic stuff out of the way first. Well, what I've seen, most Sonics haven't really changed a whole lot. And for the most part, I think that's for the best because gameplay-wise, Sonic Generations for modern and classic are fine as is. But that being said, I would like to see classic Sonic be improved without needing to use mods. While I still have fun playing classic Sonic's levels, I don't really find him as smooth or fun as the Genesis games. And I don't really know if there's anything I can think of that would improve modern Sonic, since I still have fun with him just fine. I'm sure there are ways to improve modern Sonic, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head at the moment. Although, it would be cool to see both classic and modern Sonic get more levels. Anyway, enough about those two. Let's talk about Shadow. So from a gameplay standpoint, Shadow looks like modern Sonic's gameplay, which is a given since throughout every game he's been playable in, he's always had a moveset similar to Sonic. But apparently the hub world is gonna be open world, kind of like Sonic Frontiers. If you watched my video where I was gushing about Project 06, you'd know I'm not really a fan of Sonic Frontiers, but the hub world wasn't actually one of my issues with the game. Sure, I didn't like the puzzles. Actually, no, I hated the puzzles. But the movement in the hub world was actually one of the more fun parts of the game. Now, let's just hope that the movement for Shadow and the levels won't be as sluggish as the cyberspace levels. Speaking of the levels, what I've seen in some gameplay clips, the levels, visually, are looking pretty awesome. There's Radical Highway because, well, duh, it's the first level Shadow was playable in. Also got Final Rush, or I guess Final Chase, but I don't know, maybe they're mixing both levels into one. Although, to be fair, both levels were in pretty much the same location. Oh yeah, they also added in Kingdom Valley? Dude, Kingdom Valley is actually my favorite 06 stage no matter who I play as in Project 06, so when I saw that, I actually freaked out a bit. So, moving on from the levels, there's one boss I really want to talk about. Or I guess the only boss we can talk about anyway. The Biolizard, which is a character I've always had an odd fascination with. The Biolizard is a no-brainer for one of Shadow's bosses, since it's not only the most standout boss for Shadow from Adventure 2, but also because of its connection to Shadow as a prototype of the ultimate life form. Lore aside though, the Biolizard is so disgusting and I absolutely love it. The updated design has such an unsettling look to it, and the pink eggs are so much more gross to look at than in Adventure 2. Especially when it uses wires from its life support system to create wings for itself with those eggs. And I love the details on its body. With some of the yellow/green parts on its body and the cybernetic implants, it really does look like a creature that's been in absolute agony for so long. And the way those gills move. Ugh. Oh yeah, and what I heard of it, the new mix of Supporting Me slaps! Also, I really love the dialogue I got to see from the boss fight. These two lines of Shadow being more sympathetic to the Biolizard, I think shows that he's grown as a character over the years of fighting alongside Rouge, Sonic, and the other characters he's met since Adventure 2. Sure, it's just two lines, but I think it shows some nice character growth from Shadow, especially compared to when he called the Biolizard an ugly prototype after he defeated the Biolizard in Adventure 2.
Get out, you Ugly prototype.
But yeah, the Biolizard is definitely one of the parts of Shadow Generations I'm looking forward to the most. But it's definitely not the biggest part from this game so far. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Yep, Sega is actually doing it. They're bringing back Black Doom. The only time I remember seeing stuff from Shadow the Hedgehog used in any Sonic story was in the Archie comics, particularly the one with Eclipse. I can't really say anything about the story of Shadow the Hedgehog and any possible plot holes it may have, mainly because I just haven't played the game in a while. And unless I'm gonna stream it someday, I'm definitely not going to, because I'm not gonna go through this game over 5 times to get the true ending. But yeah, it is cool to see Sega using elements from Shadow the Hedgehog for Shadow's side of the story. Considering they've pretty much ignored any parts of Shadow the Hedgehog aside from mentions or cameos in other games, Sonic Team seems pretty confident about Black Doom and Shadow Generations. But, on the topic of Shadow the Hedgehog and Black Doom, we definitely need to address this. I really can't remember if Shadow the Hedgehog really went all in with Shadow having Black Arm's DNA in him, and it looks like Shadow Generations is gonna do that. Whether this will be a new form for Shadow or just new abilities to play around with, we'll just have to see. But enough analyzing. Dude, this looks wicked! If we were still in the early 2010s, we'd probably have miserable assholes going about how, it's cringe, but we're no longer in that era of the internet. And it's cool to see that this franchise is no longer ashamed of itself to the point where we can have stuff like this again. So all in all, this is the first time in a while where I can say I'm actually excited for a Sonic game. I never really hyped myself up for Frontiers or Superstars since I try to save myself from disappointments, but this time, I'm pretty excited. Sure, it's a new version of a previous game, but considering all the new stuff we're getting with Shadow, I can't help but be excited because Shadow Bros, our boy is back! Shadow has been pretty much a shell of his former self for a while now, and they really haven't done justice for his character since 06, and I'm hoping this game will be a step in the right direction if it turns out right. I wanted to make this video because, well, not only because I'm looking forward to this game, but because, like a lot of people, I just love Shadow. When you look at the games and the other stuff that get his character right, there's a good reason fans gravitate to Shadow a lot. He wasn't just a rival to Sonic or an unfeeling loner. He was a genuinely interesting character with a great backstory and character development. Looking back on the 2010s, it really felt like Sega didn't know why Shadow was such a beloved character to begin with. But with this, I'm pretty optimistic for how Shadow will be handled in the future. Sure, it will be cool to play the classic and modern levels again, but I'm mostly looking forward to what they do with Shadow. So, Sega, if you're watching this, do you think Blaze could be playable in one of the next mainline Sonic games? Please?